Hey, we're back, and you know what? We're through the basic library stuff. Now we're back to some kind of setup dev stuff. We've done enough of code for just now. We're going to be coming back to code when we start hitting maps. We're pretty much at that point. You're pretty much ready to make little websites and stuff like that. As crazy as that seems, some basic simple stuff. You've got the building blocks. So what we still need to do is learn a couple things about like setting stuff up on your computer, and also like saving code, updating code, how that works. We went over that a bit with like hosting type stuff, but we can go in a bit more detail here. So one of the first things, a really important part of being a developer is setting up what we call a development environment. So that is how you use your computer to do development. So far, we've just been using Code Sandbox, but this ultimately isn't where we want to do all our development. It's kind of uncomfortable. It's a little squished in here. I'm sure there's options for turning things off and on and moving stuff around. But the files, we have this file layout here. And, I mentioned a couple of times, it keeps reorganizing the code every time I save it because it's trying to make the syntax look nice and all the line stuff look nice. This isn't what we ultimately want to work on. We want to have these files privately on our computer. We want to work on them. We want to be able to test everything. And then we want to like upload it or put it somewhere on the web whenever we're ready, whenever we update things. Maybe sometimes we wouldn't mind using a site like this to, again, make a quick idea and share it with someone without having to send all the files across. Or maybe even as a kind of backup for a simple site that we're making, like this saves it on their little servers and you don't have to save all the files yourself, but there are better ways to do that we'll talk about. But the point is that we want to have our own environment that is kind of like this, but is something we set up and is on our computer. In a basic way, what we use for those is code editors. So there's a ton of code editors out there. And really, you can use Notepad or TextEdit for this. You don't have to have something complicated. You couldn't use like Word, because Word does all kinds of formatting, and it's not, you need something that's so basic that you can save any kind of file, you can write any kind of file, you can mess around in it and do different stuff. So yeah, Notepad and TextEdit are fine, but they're like really, really basic, and they don't do any of the stuff like highlighting or changing the colors of texts, which makes it really easy for us to read the code compared to not seeing this at all. If you just put this straight in a Notepad document, we'll put that in there. Yeah, that's a little harder to read because even, it's not colored, it's not shaded out when it's commented. There's all kinds of crazy stuff there that just isn't easy to read at all. So there's lots of code editors. Some common ones that people use are Visual Studio. This is a big one. I think there's a free and a non-free edition. I don't remember. I don't use Visual Studio, but I've heard it's really good, and everyone says this is kind of a very common one, worth checking out. Sublime Text is a totally open source share kind of thing that I think is open source. Anyway, it's all shareable and free, and it's also, text edit, it's the same kind of thing. You recognize this. It has the colors and stuff. Visual Studio has the same kind of thing. We can just go to the page here, and yeah, it's got all these same sort of layout that we saw in Code Sandbox. There's an outdated one that I still use, but now it's actually, they've put it sunsetting it. But I used Atom for a long time. I'm still using it. That's right here. And you can see that's my code editor. Okay, so I'm going to get you to go download one of these. I don't care which one you download, but one that, chuck around, see which one kind of suits you kind of nicely. Probably if Visual Studio is going to be a bit complicated to set up, Sublime is probably super easy. So, make your own choice there. But I'll wait for you to get set up. You can pause the video. Once you've downloaded one of these, installed it, and opened it up, then unpause the video. Okay, so once you've installed and opened up, your code editor, it'll look something like this, except you won't probably have the folders open on the left-hand side. So, okay, you probably don't have a folder set up, so the next thing I'll get you to go do is create a folder on your computer that's going to hold all your web development work. Mine is called Mapster. That's my company. So I put all this stuff in there, and then have clients and projects and products and stuff like that. So make your folder and just make a subfolder that's for this course or for whatever the heck you decide. And then you're going to go something like file and open folder. I'm not sure exactly what your code editor will have, but it'll have something similar to this, add a folder. And then when you add that folder, you'll get a menu sort of like this on the left-hand side, probably. And then in there, you can start making files. You can left click and there'll probably be you can right click and there'll be something like a new file, new folder type stuff. And then when you make them, I'm going to be showing you how it looks in Atom, but, in your code editor, it'll probably be very similar. I could go new file, and then I can just make a file like new file .js or .html or .css, whatever I want. And it appears there. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So now we have this little thing of local files. Now what I want you to do is kind of make it so we're replicating the structure that we have here. We're going to have all these files. We don't need the package JSON or the sandbox config JSON. They aren't needed. But we want the about HTML, index HTML script, and style.css. And we want those all to go into whatever little folder that you just made. Okay. So once they're in there, they're not quite going to look like this just yet. But what I'm going to get you to do now is make folders. Make a folder called CSS and make a folder called JS. And then put the CSS in the CSS and the JS in the JS. Big surprise. And now what we have here in this little spot here, we have a little mini website. This is our local version of all the files. If we click on one of them and we open it up, we see we have the files in there. This is working from an older version, so it doesn't quite look the same as what you'll have, but no big deal. The principle is the same. So now what we can do is we can open this up in the browser. So if I was to go show an Explorer and open this up in my file explorer here in Windows, I can just open this up. You can see it has like a Chrome symbol. Now, this is from an older version of when I was doing the course, so it won't look like the calculator that we've been working on. It'll look roughly like it. But let's just double click it, and we can see it. It's a calculator. It's here. Like I said, it looks a little different, but it's the same basic idea that we were working on. And it's here. It's working, and you can see it's literally opening the file from my computer. It's not on the internet. Okay, so that's pretty cool, and it should still all work. Yeah, it's basic things, still works. So that's how we make a local file. Now, we are going to be doing more complicated ways of opening up these files in the next video, but this is the basic idea. Good job. We're working on your local computer in a local environment now.